Yeah, we bowl off this Wednesday edition of the SportsMax Zone with cricket. The opening round of the 2024 Cricket West Indies Regional 4-Day Championship got underway earlier in St. Kitts and Nevis and Jamaica. However, no play was possible in one of the 4 games at Chedwin Park between combined campuses and colleges and Barbados Pride due to a wet outfield. We sought to get an understanding of what took place at Chedwin Park, and Jamaica Cricket Association Operations Manager O'Neill Cruikshank provided us with some answers.
Well, we came to Sabina, Chedwin Park today, and we found that or what we were told is that on Monday night into Tuesday morning, or put it over the night time of Monday to Tuesday, a sprinkler system or a hose system was inadvertently left on, and because of it, it had that amount of water that was deposited on the outfield. It caused the area to have been very soggy, and they tried to fix it on Tuesday. But when we came this morning, the area was still very wet, and the umpires knew that it was too soft and presented a safety challenge for the players. They had about 2 or 3 inspections, and eventually sometime at about 1:30 or thereabout, or sometime thereabout, they decided that it would not dry out in time to start today, and therefore the game will start tomorrow.
Yeah, Cruikshank said he cannot speak to the efficiency of the drainage system at Chedwin Park.
No, I don't want to say the drainage is an issue, because this is not a field like Sabina Park or the Chilani Stadium that is a grass field. A sand-based outfield, which would have allowed the water to go through. So I don't want to go because I'm not an authority to say that the drainage is a problem. Maybe it was that just the volume of water was such that it just could not dry out in time. I will tell you that the ground staff here, based on what I saw, they worked feverishly. They worked, attentively to try and correct the situation. It just could not be done in time for the game to have started today. Currently, they are continuing their works to ensure that when the teams turn out tomorrow, they can start on time.
Yeah, Cruikshank also commented on the possibility of play starting on day 2.
Now, in this situation, I couldn't make a guarantee that they will play tomorrow. The ground staff are doing what they have to do. When the umpires come tomorrow, they'll have to make another assessment at the time to see whether it is sufficiently safe for the players to go. It's a relatively small area, maybe 20 feet or so, 20 feet long by maybe about 10 feet wide, if you want to call it that, the entire area. So it's a small area, but as I said, the hose would have been in that area all night, it seemed, based on what we have learned, that the hose was left there, and therefore the area was just saturated with water. Bear in mind that we had rains sometime on Monday, so that would have helped to have compounded the issue in terms of the water just not being able to drain away quickly enough. As I said, I wouldn't go as far as to say there's a drainage problem, because it has to do with the volume of water that may have been put into the particulate.
Yeah, Lance Whitaker, so often we've heard the saying, rain, no play. This one is relatively new. Sun, no play at Chedwin Park. And I can really only describe this as amateur hour.
Yeah, shocking. And the problem is that Jamaica hasn't hosted cricket at this level since 2019. And you would think that, with that long drought, if I may use that word.
Lance, please.
of no cricket. Errors like these are unforgivable. You would think that every effort would have been made to ensure that the return of first-class cricket to Jamaica was seamless and good for everyone. And to be quite honest, CCC and Barbados Pride have every right to feel very, very hurt about what has happened here, because we are talking the opening round of the competition, and they have been put in a position now where their game is the possibility of getting something maximum out of this game is reduced because they've lost one day, and I'm not sure how soon on day 2 play will start. So this is unforgivable. A pause was left on overnight inadvertently. Wow. And that was Monday into Tuesday. Yeah. And that couldn't be rectified for a Wednesday start. They would have had all day Tuesday in sunshine.
Yes.
And I don't know, this is hard to digest.
Yeah, this is really difficult to digest. That this is the reason why we did not have cricket at Chedwin Park today. This is significant for a number of reasons, right, Lance? One of them for me is the fact that even before the start of the CWI 4-day championship for 2024, there were questions raised about Chedwin Park as a venue. If you are close enough to cricket, if you're close enough to the cricket in Jamaica, you would have heard a number of persons asking the question, why are we playing regional first-class cricket at Chedwin Park when there are several other viable options? Yeah. Part of it is, from what I've heard, the changing rooms are small. It's not necessarily the most comfortable environment. There was a time when a lot of first-class cricket was played at Chedwin Park. I remember as a youngster growing up watching the Buster Cup competition regularly. Matches would be played
I remember
at Chedwin Park.
A lightning incident that had struck Mervyn Dillon and a couple of other players when Trinidad and Tobago were facing Jamaica. That happened at Chedwin Park. If our cricket viewers remember that. Yeah, there was a lightning incident one afternoon, and a couple of Trinidad and Tobago players were hurt by the strike of lightning. That happened at Chedwin Park, and as you said, that's probably 20 years ago. Yeah,
and the problem is, from the time when we had regular first-class cricket at Chedwin Park to now, my understanding is that the venue is not even as good as it was then, has run down significantly. And it wasn't the best then either. I don't think so. I don't think it was the best then. But if it is not even up to the standard of what it was then I think it is a legitimate question to ask, why are we there? And as I said, there are other options. You think about the Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium. You think about the Bauxite venue in St. Anne, that's Naranda.
Formerly Kaiser.
Formerly Kaiser.
Yes.
I know that there are matches slated to be played at Kensington Park, which is in East Kingston. So
what about Melbourne?
I think part of the issue with Melbourne over the years is that it is too small and there are no stands at Melbourne.
Yes.
Not that I can recall stands at Kensington Park either, but I could be wrong. But there are definitely no stands.
No stands there, just a pavilion.
Yes.
In the same way that there's a pavilion at Melbourne.
Well, there you go. But I know over the years, because of how small that Melbourne venue, it's been an issue for first-class cricket. But it is unfortunate, significantly, what has happened here today. You spoke about the fact that Barbados Pride and the combined campuses and colleges will likely miss out on an entire day. Given the circumstances, I am sure Cricket West Indies would probably contemplate extending the match by a day, but that could be difficult given travel arrangements.
But that's also subject to the conditions of the tournament. If the conditions of the tournament don't allow that, Ricardo, that's not an option.
Well, I think this is an extraordinary circumstance because it's not a case where the match has started. It is not a situation where it's not a situation that was beyond the control of those who are put in a position to ensure that the tournament goes off without issues. And so from that standpoint, I think consideration could be made to extend it by a day and go on to Sunday. But I do understand that there is also, depending on the travel arrangements and when players have to leave and so on, could impact whether that actually happens.
Yes.
Because I could think that if they finished on Sunday, that they should be okay to restart the second round, which would be on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But if there is travel that needs to take place on Sunday, then definitely that would not happen. And that was Chedwin Park, Lance, because I tell you something. I went to Sabina Park today to watch the Jamaica Scorpions versus Windward Islands Volcanoes match. And our reporter Gerard Morrisili will be telling us about the cricket later on. But I was extremely disappointed with some of what I saw. The first thing that caught me was the fact that the electronic scoreboard was not in operation.
Yes.
I know that it has not been working properly since about 2022 when New Zealand came here. I remember the scoreboard, some of the letters and numbers you couldn't make out clearly. But that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. And here we are having first-class cricket in the land of wood and water, and you turn up to the venue, there's a small manual scoreboard that is being utilized that, depending on where you are, you can barely see. And so if the stadium announcer doesn't give you the score, then you often don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Thank God for the YouTube stream that you can go on and see what's happening, but even that is usually a minute or two behind what's happening in the live action.
Yeah.
And then just the general feel of the place, Lance, it wasn't clean. The elevators were not working. There is the small scoreboard. Great work from the videographer, Daniel Douglas, to get us a nice zoom that you can see it. But I can tell you from where I was standing with the naked eye, I could barely make out what was happening on that scoreboard. And then the electronic scoreboard is just not working. The elevators to take you up to the various floors are not working. When you walk up the stairs to go to the various floors, if you put your hand on the railing, it's dirty.
Yes.
And this is a COVID period, guys. And then the field isn't in the best condition either. It was really disappointing for me.
Yeah.
And especially because we've spoken about limited cricket in Jamaica for a long time now.
Yeah.
And to turn up on the opening day, a lot of the seats were not even clean. Thankfully, it seems as if some work was done on the first part of seating in the northern stand. But even with that work, it still
But you know,
wasn't up to
the state
standard.
of disrepair of Sabina Park as a complex, Ricardo, had come to the fore in our discussions last year when we were talking about the Jamaicans not applying for, the Tala was moving and the CPL issue with Jamaica hosting matches, and then Jamaica not bidding for matches in the T20 World Cup. The issue of the condition of Sabina Park had surfaced in many of those discussions. And I gathered at the point that if there were to be a bid, there would have been a lot of work needed at Sabina Park to bring it back to the level that it needed to be to, win any kind of bid to host matches. So, you are taken aback, Ricardo, but to be quite honest, I'm not shocked about what is happening.
But the thing is, Lance, you're talking about something at a totally different level.
Yes.
I'm talking about basic cleanliness here. Basic cleanliness. If you turn up to a regional first-class match, this is the premier cricket competition in the region. Whether as a spectator or as media or as an official, whatever the case may be, the least you expect is a clean environment to operate. And that did not exist this morning, and that was disappointing for me. Just as disappointing as it was that the scoreboard, the electronic scoreboard, has still not been fixed after pretty much 2 years. But I guess you may well hear that well, we've not had any cricket, so we had no reason to fix it.
Yeah.
I wonder how long it's going to take now for it to be fixed. I was told that there is a plan to get it replaced. I don't know how advanced those are, but my goodness me, make it quick.
But you know, there's an issue as well about the ownership of Sabina Park. The
Yes.
holding company is divesting its hold on Sabina Park, and I think it at the moment the ownership of the complex is in limbo, and because of that, well, I think that is part of the reason why so scant an attention is being paid to Sabina Park as a complex, which is disappointing. Having said that, you know, there have been Jamaica Premier League football matches played there in the past few months.
Yes.
So, but not in the recent past. I don't think there have been any matches there since December.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if it got dirty between
Lance,
the football hosting and the cricket hosting.
Lance, it is
Yeah.
always going to get dirty. If you are going to have a match of this magnitude or matches of this magnitude, then clean it properly. Clean it properly before the media turns up. Clean it properly before spectators turn up.
But you know, part of the issue is that usually when these matches are on at Sabina Park, we hear that there are about 40 or 50 spectators watching the match.
I counted about 150 this morning.
150.
Yes. That was up to lunch
Yeah.
on day one. They
Yeah.
weren't satisfied. I don't know how they felt about the environment,
Yes.
but I know for sure they weren't satisfied with the cricket, which Gerard will tell us about later on.
Yeah, the outlook for cricket in Jamaica at the moment is dismal. No
Yeah.
question about it, yeah.
Based on what I saw, no surprise why the players performed so poorly and have been performing so poorly on the field of play. Wasn't a good look, but let's take a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.